Hello everyone, it's Maha. So today we're going to be looking at a deck that is very different, very special to me, and I dedicated myself to only this deck for the entire summer, believe it or not. I spent the entire month of June, July, and August working with this deck. It is the Way of the Horse Oracle deck. This is not the original box. It came with a huge box that I don't have here. This is a very deep deck, everybody. It's one that really requires us to do some pretty intense inner work. I wasn't really sure how I wanted to structure this video before I started. So I wanted to start off by talking about Linda Kohanov, the author of this deck and the author of many books. So the artist is Kim McElroy, and Linda Kohanov, I first got introduced to her writing a long time ago, when I was looking for a book on leadership and assertiveness. And then I came across her book called The Power of the Herd, Non-Predatory Social Intelligence, Leadership, and Innovation. That's the title. I'm going to link it in the description box. Amazing book. And I just fell in love with her style of writing. So eloquent, so rich, so full of just bringing all kinds of life experience, not only her experience working with the horses, but really just from all walks of life, stories and illustrations, examples like from art, from different authors. She's just a wealth of information, and I just fell in love with her style. So when I heard that she had an oracle deck that had come out, I didn't even think twice. I purchased it right away. I went quickly on Amazon and I was like, I don't even need to watch any videos on this deck. I don't even need to see the cards. I'm sure I'm gonna love it. So got it right away. And it was because of her. So to introduce her, I wanted to just read you one paragraph from her book, The Power of the Herd. And in this paragraph, she kind of illustrates what she does with horses. So she has a what is it called? Let me just actually read you here from the book. So an equestrian program that she has developed, where she uses her skills of 20 years or so or more of working with horses to work with people from all walks of life, to teach them skills on leadership, and to work with developing emotional intelligence and working with difficult emotions, and even cases like trauma, past childhood trauma, or all kinds of trauma. And her approach I found so unique at the time, because I hadn't heard of it before. So I'm going to just read you this paragraph. Equine Facilitated Learning Program and Referral Agency was founded by a group of Tuscan-based horse trainers, educators, and counselors. It combined humanity's highest aspirations with nature's flowing wisdom. So we partnered with horses to teach cooperative, non-predatory forms of empowerment, emotional fitness, social intelligence, and authentic community building. We named it after Celtic horse goddess associated with healing and transformation, Epona, who seemed a fitting symbol for an organization that employed horses in the work of human development. So at the time when I was discovering this book and reading it, I synchronistically was really called to work with the Celtic Goddess Epona as well. So I made a video about that, which I will link down below as well if you're interested. And I talked about that and how it was a very synchronistic moment when I came across her. And so she has written this book really in the same light of all her other writings and all her other books, which I totally love because I just think she's an amazing author. So I want to show you some of the cards to begin with, and just to show you a general feeling of the cards. I'm not going to go through all the cards. There are other videos that you can look at for some flip throughs. I want to talk mostly about some of my experiences with this deck. So I will show you some of the cards that came up for me that I really did some deep work with, and then to introduce you to the style of this deck. So the cards, the one thing that kind of surprised me in a weird way was the backing of the illustration of the backing of the cards, which is so different from the actual images, the actual artwork, which I absolutely love. I'm not really too crazy about the backing. I thought it was too simplistic compared to the artwork, which you'll see in a second. So the artwork ranges from horses being drawn and painted very hyper-realistically to kind of abstract. So by hyper-realism, I mean very much like this, where horses are there. And I love this panoramic view. I love how there aren't keywords on the card. So to me, that kind of allows for more exploration. And when we get to the book, the title, the keywords are just so beautiful. They're not your typical, keywords that you usually see. They're very creative, very different. So let's see. So you have images from super realism, which is so fascinating because she does such a great job. Like, look at this one. You can see all the tiny hairs, the reflections. It's such an amazing job she's done of the reflection of the horse. And I just absolutely love this artwork. And I think it's just so varied because you have the very realistic ones, and then you have the ones that are kind of a combination between realism and surrealism, where there is a definite figurative, painted horses, and then you can see that as you keep looking at the card, there's a horse's head that emerges, and then the light is like coming through the eye. So then it becomes really surreal, almost like that you could just explore by looking more and more into the image. There's another example. Beautiful, stunning artwork. So there's flames, and then there's other horses in the background. I love artwork where you can just look at it and just keep discovering more and more into it. And then there are images that are sort of abstract, but then again, there is that horse that comes through, like this one. Beautiful lightning. And then there are ones that are totally abstracted, like these ones. Almost like chalk pastel drawings. Very freeing, bold colors, very different from the previous ones you saw. Another example. Amazing. Love this. This one came up for me a lot as well. And I love this one. The keywords for these cards are gorgeous too. You just get that sense that there is, I don't know, I felt that my connection with horses really grew, and there's been so many synchronistic events happening in my life that kind of really pulled me more even to what I want to share with you about the other cards in working with horses. So then there's other cards where there's human figures. Beautiful, stunning artwork. Look at the shine on that skin, on that silky skin, and her hair. Just, such a variety, and really real, surreal, and then very abstract. And there's animals, like very mythical almost, like there's the owl here and the sky. And then this one, sort of reminiscent of Pegasus here. There's use of mythology. And there's another one. This one came up for me a lot, which had to do with boundaries. That was the lesson of this card. The only thing I found is that when I was shuffling the cards, it was a little bit, and still is, a little bit slippery. They don't shuffle very well, and I guess it's just the surface that's almost, it's not glossy, it's very flat almost. It's not even semi-gloss. So as I said, it comes with a big box, very big box, very hard, chunky box, beautiful box, but thing is, I have a limited space where I live, so I have to be very picky with the boxes that I keep. So I'm not really into larger boxes for that reason, just because they are bulky. So unfortunately, that has to go in the recycling box, and I really feel bad about that. I love those smaller boxes. I really do, you guys. So some of the cards that came up for me, and I just love, and I keep them very close to my heart. One is this one. I love this one, and I love that it's a number 13. So it really looks like the sense of perspective of looking up. And whenever I go out for a walk, and if I'm lucky that the sky is clear, I just see this. I see this. I remember the card's message. I'm not going to talk about all the card's messages, just a couple of them. But this one was definitely one that I really needed to hear. This deck is a deck that really works with, helps you to work with the emotions. So as I said, Linda Kohanov works with developing social intelligence and emotional intelligence. And horses are highly sensitive, very emotional beings. And working with this deck and reading this book has really helped me to understand horses in a way that I didn't before. I've always had this love of horses ever since I was very, very young. My dad always tells me that when I was 2 years old, I was always talking about how I wanted to own a horse. I've never been fortunate enough to have a horse in my own life. But when I discovered I was a Sagittarius at the age of 13, I was just so happy because I love the fact that my symbol is the half man, half horse. And so that's when I really got obsessed with drawing horses all throughout high school. I have so many drawings of horses that I've done, all kinds of paintings and drawings of horses. And when I was 19, I got the opportunity to ride a horse, which is a crazy experience. I'm not going to talk about it in this video, but that one was very interesting, and it helped me to develop this sense of respect for horses. And more recently, as I've been working with this deck, synchronistically, I've been watching this show on Netflix. I was talking in another video about how I love watching children's or kids shows, and I discovered this one show called Free Rein, which is actually about this girl who is very intuitive with horses. She can feel what they're thinking and they're feeling, and it's a really nice show. I at first I was thinking it's kind of cheesy, and then I got really into it, and I really started falling in love with the idea that one day, maybe in the future, I really want to feel what it's like to build a connection and a relationship with a horse one day in the future. I've never had that opportunity, but it's something that really inspired me, just working with this deck and really understanding how horses are, because in the book she does give you a lot of examples for each card in real cases with the horses that she owns or had owned. And there are very emotional passages written in this book. I was in tears almost on each page. I was just in tears reading her stories and really feeling how intelligent and how emotionally and how amazing these beings are, and how much I didn't know about horses, how much I didn't know about what's happening in the world in relation to horses. And it really just the working with this deck has been an amazing experience to open my eyes and my heart out to these beings, these animals that are just so incredible. And of course, I had an amazing connection with this card, Chiron. I've talked a little bit about this in another video, and I will be talking hopefully in the future more about it. The Wounded Healer. When I got this deck, just about a month after I got this deck, something very traumatizing happened to me. I went through something really difficult, an event that was very difficult and brought a lot of pain into my life and to me personally. And one thing that happened prior to that was that my lesson was that I didn't listen to my intuition. And the very first card I pulled when I began working with this deck was this one. And the message of it was intuition and listening to intuition, trusting our instincts, which is sort of a theme with this deck. I think now that I know about horses a little more, I think that working with horses in real life and just reading about them and working with their energy helps us to be more in tune with our emotions and our intuition constantly, more frequently, or just more aware of it. This is beautiful. The artwork is beautiful. I just love the textures. It's kind of like a combination of that abstract and realism, because you really see the horse coming through, starting to form and to become real. And then yet there is in the background that haziness that's almost abstract. And the colors are just so gorgeous. Those purpley turquoise and light shades of yellow. Just a very emotional card. I love that one. And then this one is another one that came up for me quite a lot. I think the keyword is in the eye of the storm. And I just love that because it focuses me into the center. There's these two horses like just flowing, becoming waves. And it talks, I think there's another horse down here, right? Yeah, it's just, you can just keep looking at it and discovering more and more into the layers of the artwork. And it talks in the book about maintaining the center in the midst of chaos. And I'm telling you, when I pulled this card, that's exactly what I was feeling. I was feeling chaos, emotional chaos. And I put this card up for days, and I just kept, tuning into its message. Another very similar message was with this card, which I love. That clarity of sky. I think this one is called Breath of Air, if I'm not... Breath of Air. I'm going to check it again when we look at the book. There's horses here in the sky turning into clouds, and then there's that clarity, that sense of clarity. And I love that line because the numbers are all there with that line, but the way that they framed each of them just suits it so perfectly. I think artistically this deck is really well done. And the numbers are also significant, and for me they were significant. So the last card I wanted to show you about myself personally that I had an experience with is this one. And when I pulled this one, number 16, when I pulled this one, I thought, wasn't that impressed with the artwork. And I wanted to put it away and actually shuffle again. And then I didn't. And then I read the passage in the book and that's what I'm going to talk about. That's what I'm going to show you and read a little more about, because it was exactly what I needed to hear. Exactly. So let me just share with you what it says in the book. Okay, so you ready for the keyword? So powerful. Okay, so it's called the Master of Sadness. And that day, what I was feeling was a lot of sadness. It was about a month and a half ago, and I don't remember exactly what happened, but I really needed to cry. I really need to just, pour down the tears, and it wasn't happening. I couldn't cry. And for me, it's hard to cry. I am a very emotional and sensitive person, but I do tend to kind of guard myself when it comes to crying and just letting it all out. I'm a little bit more hesitant. I don't want to just cry because, yes, I guess I do feel weak, right? I mean, some of us feel this way when we want to be strong, when we have throughout our lives learned that we need to be the strong ones. Sometimes it's hard to cry when you really need to. And I really needed at that moment to be in touch with my feelings and just let it all out, and not be afraid of the tears. And I couldn't. What happened was I had a lot of anxiety also, and I like to go for a walk, and I like walking on grass with my bare feet when I do feel a bit anxious, just so I can solidly connect to the ground. And I did that, and I was walking on the grass, and I got stung by a bee. I stepped on a wasp or a bee, I don't know, and I got stung, and it was a really bad one. I almost had an allergic reaction. I almost ended up in the hospital. It was really bad, but you know what? I cried a lot because it was freaking painful. And I just cried and cried, and that was literally the day that I drew this card. And I knew that I needed to cry and I couldn't. And so in a way I was thinking, maybe this was nature's way to, I know that unfortunately a bee or very sadly, a bee or a wasp had to sacrifice itself for my tears, but I really cried and I felt so much better after. So the message of this card, okay, so the way the book is designed, which is another thing I really wanted to talk about, but again, I don't want this to be a typical boring video where I just show the camera, flip through all the cards and the book. I wanted it to be more about my personal experience about this deck, because I do feel it's a very powerful deck and I want to share that with you. So the book starts off with the title in the keyword or the title of the card. In this case, it's Master of Sadness. It could be boundaries, vigilance, and then it gives you a few lines of what it's about. So in this case, it's sadness or grief, power of tears, release and rejuvenation. And then the sentence just to kind of lead you into the rest. A tear at the edge of the sage horse's eye catches the light of infinity. So this is just one powerful sentence about the card, about the image of the card. And when I saw this card, my focus went right away to his third eye. And she talks about that in the book. And this, I don't know if I'm going to read it to you or not, but it made me cry. It was so sad. The story of this horse and what happened to the horse and in relation to this card. And then it goes to the gift. So there's the gift and the challenge. The gift is sadness signifies it's time to let go of a relationship, job, or perspective that no longer serves you. Tears help you release attachment to an old way of being, rejuvenating you for the next stage of growth. And then the challenge, some people are more afraid of sadness and grief than fear or anger, yet holding back those tears leads to despair and depression. Even real men need to cry. Even real women need to cry. And then it goes on to the journey, and there's usually a few pages that it talks about the journey and kind of makes you think. So this is one of those books, those guide books, that's very different from many Oracle decks. And this is actually one of the reasons why I got this deck. Number one reason why I got this deck was for its book, because of Linda Kohanov and her style of writing, which is why I thought I'd introduce her to begin with. So the book kind of tells you a story related to in this case, to sadness, and then it leaves you to reflect on it. It doesn't tell you, what this card actually means. It just tells you in a way, it kind of allows you to reflect. There's a lot of reflection that goes on with reading these passages. And then at the end, there is a section called Related Wisdom, which I love because it introduces you, or it lists a few other cards that are related to this theme, so that you can go back and forth and explore the other cards. And you might find that you keep drawing the cards that have been sort of suggested here. So Related Wisdom, for example, for Master of Sadness, would be number 17, Depression, and then 20, Close to Shore, 21, Moonlight's Embrace, 31, The Horse Ancestors. And should I read you some of this? I don't know. It's pretty hard to take. This one was a very, very emotional passage here. So I will just read you a little bit of the beginning of this card. the master of sadness. So, the journey. It was a formerly abused cow horse who taught me the true power of sadness. When I first met Noche, the sturdy, slightly graying bay gelding was fearless on the trail and deeply mistrustful of humans. Over the years, I formed a close partnership with him, yet sometimes just looking into his soulful brown eyes, I felt tears welling up inside. Not wanting to upset the poor guy, I kept him away from riding students with emotional issues. Oddly enough, he refused to be shielded from their sadness, actually seeking out people who were on the verge of a good cry. One day, I finally let Noche interact with a client he seemed attracted to. He walked over to her, looked at her a certain way, and the tears began to fall down her cheeks. The head-shy horse stood next to this gently sobbing woman, unrestrained, allowing her to hug his thick, furry neck. The whole time he was sighing and licking and chewing, equine signs of release. A single tear rolled down the horse's left cheek. Then he sputtered, shook his head, and wandered off, leaving us dumbfounded. The next day, he refused to let the same person halter him, but his eyes were brighter, his demeanor more confident and trusting. So you see, it's like a story. She talks about her experiences with horses, and then she gives you examples of other authors who've talked about certain things that she touches upon, so you can research that. You can have other resources to read, maybe around the same idea or subject or theme. She quotes other authors, which I like because I like to have different resources. That's just how I am. And then in the end, she gives you, I'm not going to read all of it because it's really sad. She gives you sort of what happens to... sometimes tears express sadness, frustration, or even anger that needs to be released. Other times tears well up when you uncover a part of yourself that was buried under all that's logical and socially acceptable. In nature, too much sun is not a good thing. The same with our culture's preference for dry reason over feeling. Digging beneath the surface of your persona is like hitting an underground spring in the desert. The water gushes up and creates an oasis for new growth. So you get the idea. It's just, her writing is beautiful. It kind of leads you on in and out, and you want to explore more. And the artwork of this deck is just very intimate, very beautifully done in every sense of the word. Beautiful colors, amazing skill. There is that sense of you being right there with the horse because of the way it's painted. It's the way it's painted. They are right there with you. You can feel their pain. You can feel their sadness. It's almost like you're looking into their eyes. You're right there with them. And then there are cards where kind of take you on a little journey somewhere else. Okay, so I think we're done. It's getting a bit dark here. And I hope that you all enjoyed this video. It was a little different from my usual Oracle deck reviews. So thank you so much, as always, for being here. Thank you for your support. And I'm sending you lots of love and many blessings. Until next time.